He's absolutely fine when the steering wheel is straight.
Yeah.
Hey guys, it's Ian from SS8000 Cars, and today's an exciting day. We've got the Zenvo coming, and the Zenvo is a hypercar of the first order. It's producing 1176 HP and weighs in around the 15 kilograms stage. So this thing is going to be fast, if not as fast as anything out there. And we're hoping to get some footage of it. It's Lee from Supercharged Racing that's bringing the car around. We met up with him at his St George's Hill do a couple of weeks ago, and I think I can hear it. Wow, listen to this. Listen to this, boys. That was fortuitous, wasn't it? Fucking hell. He's not going to make that in one go, is he? Wow, what a machine. Bloody hell. And quite a low front spoiler. What a noise it makes. Wow. You can really hear it. Bloody hell. Look at that. Just unbelievable. So it's Danish, obviously, if it's going back to Denmark.
Yeah, that's where it's built. Yeah.
And where are they in the stage? Because I can see it's a pre-production prototype at the moment.
We can take orders for a new car now. This is a kind of show car, pre-production car.
Yes.
We've sold one car, but it's got sold to Russia, to the factory it's sold in. So there's been about 3 or 4 cars sold to date. This is basically a show car. So this one's about maybe a year and a half old.
Right, okay.
So it's not the absolute latest version, but it was used as a semi-development car at the same time.
But the basic, the engine, it's a V10 or
No,
V8?
it's V8. It's a 5.8 litre V8.
Right, producing
1163 brake horsepower.
Obviously for this, it's Lee from SVO, Supercharged Racing, and this is their new baby, really.
Yeah, basically we just signed up as the UK dealer for it. Yes, we're planning to get our own kind of demonstrator or another Zenvo over quite shortly, but we've got a very tight time scale on this particular car. It has to go back in a couple of days.
What will happen to this car? It will carry on? Will they
I don't know.
amend it for?
I don't really know, to be honest with you. It's their car, obviously, so they'll either carry on using it for development purposes or use it for shows, or just doing what we're doing, sort of, just kind of taste the test drives and just initial features with magazines and journalists.
Right.
And then obviously the full production car, we hope to get one maybe next year, but I just don't really know what time scale.
Fair enough.
I don't think anybody that is actually buying these will buy
You have the door levers down here. You can see that apparently the tub is a combination of carbon fibre and aluminium, but obviously everything inside is exposed carbon fibre, and it is beautifully finished. Now, I was a little bit suspicious when I heard about this, because I thought, well, they can't be that well made because they've got a hugely limited budget. But I'm telling you, this car is fantastic. Look at the open view of the engine. It's amazing. It's beautifully put together. I mean, if they can achieve reliability with this car as well, then you've got something very special. Now, my huge thanks to Lee for bringing it around. I mean, wow, that is an occasion, isn't it? Hi, James.
Hello.
That's utterly amazing. What are the wheels made of?
They're alley wheels on this one.
Right.
They're different types of wheels.
So those are just sort of
they're just carbon fins, really.
Fins, yeah, right, okay.
But if you wanted carbon wheels, like I said, there's not a no in any request really. It's just
Actually, not too difficult to get in and out of either.
Well, that's the thing with it. sounds really boring and dull, but it's the best part of the car, because most supercars, you can appreciate, it's like getting inside a letterbox, isn't it?
Well,
because this is really accommodating to all sides of drivers, really.
They've managed to keep the sill low,
Yeah.
which I think helps. So the only thing you're actually doing is climbing up over into the seat.
You've got a lot of space around the pedals, so like I said, it's a big part of making the car accommodating.
Yeah, no, actually you're right. It doesn't come in on you at all, does it? It's actually very, and it is nicely made. There's the presumably that button there is to open the door, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
The front of it is very aggressive.
Yeah, no.
Oh, it's well. I think it's aggressive.
It looks like a racetrack car from the front. Really well. It's really good.
Made in Denmark, so to speak, and apparently all the components are made in house, effectively.
Very spaceship-like.
It is, isn't it?
It's theatre, isn't it?
But incredibly easy to drive once you sort of learn about some of it's what the gearbox is called.
It's a dog tooth gearbox, so it's a racing type gearbox. In a normal car, you've got what they call a synchromesh gearbox.
Yeah.
Which basically you've got two gears and they've got cones in them. As you go to select the gear, the cones slide up, slows the gears down, and allows you to engage the gears. You've got none of that in this gearbox.
Okay.
It's great big dog teeth, great big chunky teeth.
Yeah.
So when it engages, it's got a lot, but it doesn't really work until you've got a lot of speed within the gearbox.
Yeah.
So up to 40 miles an hour, it's a little bit clunky, a little bit, it feels cumbersome, but the faster you go, the quicker the gear change gets.
Yeah.
I can only compare it to the 575, which had the single clutch automated gearbox, and if you didn't take your foot off the accelerator on that as you change up, you got a clonk.
Yeah.
Whereas this will do the same, but if you take your foot off the accelerator and then back down again, it's actually quite smooth.
And on full throttle application, you just keep your foot flat, hold it before, keep pulling the pedal back, and it doesn't forward, but it really goes in really quickly.
Yeah.
And this has full lifting gear, so it lifts the front and the back, which is quite useful as well.
Good,
Given you've got it back down again, have you,
down,
Lee? Coming over the bumps, I was going sideways over them just to try and, but Lee was saying no, it's plenty high enough. It doesn't need.
That's really good.
Well, it is in this place.
The carbon side skirts really stand out.
I mean, I love this. Actually, I just love the way it's really low. I like the fins on the. I mean, somebody's given a great deal of thought to this, haven't they, in terms of the design?
It's a very solid, well-engineered car.
Yes.
It's just robust, it's strong, and that's kind of, it drives like it looks, I think. It's aggressive.
It does. It does. You're very engaged in the driving process. I mean, it's difficult to say, but I was saying to Lee, my hands were very slightly sweaty when I was, and also, of course, the roads were very slightly damp.
Yeah.
So that made, but no slippage really. Even on the, I was being smooth when I was using the revs. I was being smooth.
It's got quite a lot of good rear end traction because it's quite a lot of weight at the back of the car.
So it's presumably it's sucking air in all of these, and they're radiators behind, are they?
One really big water radiator there. That's why it needs the big aperture to keep the engine cool. Obviously. Right. The side ones are for brake cooling, as far as I know.
Right.
These ones down here.
Got you.
Or it's to generate, airflow through the front.
And generally, sucking it into the ground. It's got a diffuser.
That's a fixed rear wing. It's got a diffuser on the rear. The TSR's got a much bigger rear wing. They're in the process of developing a very unique rear wing, which is going to be launched at Geneva next year, which would be really interesting. Again, that's something that no other supercar manufacturer's done, so I can't really say much about it at the moment, but it's pretty cool.
Does it look good?
Oh yeah.
Because actually, having said that, it's good too.
So there's options on wings.
Okay.
There's potential options on front splitters, wheels. But yeah, trim-wise, you can have any material, specify any colour. Obviously, against the show car, that's why there's two different colours on each seat, just to show potential options.
I quite like that.
I think so. It's just different.
Exactly.
But the hexagon theme through the car, I think I'm right in saying there's not many cars that I can think of that have got the theme throughout the whole car. So you've got the hexagon grille, and that shape is repeated on everything in the car. Every switch gears is that shape. The speaker grille's the shape of the steering wheel. Everywhere you look, it's got that hexagon theme all the way through it.
There's a massive amount.
Even down to the detail on the grills there. All the grills in the back have got it.
Yes.
The shape of the exhaust has got it. So when you start looking at it, it's quite a lot of thought's gone into the whole thing, really.
it's difficult to believe you'd ever get that over a speed ramp.
No, but sorry, it does. That's why it's got the lift on it, you know, front and rear. You know.
Do you know, the funny thing was, I didn't really get the chance to have a really good round.
No, but you've got a sense. You've got a sense of it.
It's quite exciting, isn't it? And it's. I like the styling. Actually, I just think the styling is if you were to sort of pen something that you wanted your sort of ultra supercar to look like, I think it's. I might not have it in the lime green, but other than that,
the whole point, it's just different from everything else. It's different from any other manufacturer.
What are the main competitors for this?
We were talking. I think it really sits with Koenigsegg and Pagani. I think there's those three. This and those two cars are the real bespoke hypercars that very super low volume. You know, very aggressive. You know, very extreme. And then you've got the 918, the LaFerrari, and the P1 sit in another group, and then you've got every other supercar sort of underneath that, and then you've got Bugatti at the top of the pyramid.
Yes,
true.
Possibly. You know, that's kind of where I think it sits really.
But it's totally carbon fibre. So the body's totally carbon fibre, and then the tub is a sort of a composite, apparently, of carbon fibre and aluminium.
Different materials.
And I think I like the way also that the engine's all on show as well. I mean, I think that's really smart. Certainly with the new 720S McLaren, which I know is not in this price bracket, but they've got the engine so far down.
Yeah, you can't see it.
You can't see it, and they've got this tiny little aperture like this that you apparently they do if you get the right specification. They have a little light in there.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, yeah, right. I got under the show lights at the Frankfurt show. I couldn't see it anyway. So yeah, no, I mean it's. I think, you know, I understand their viewpoint. They want to get it low, and also the thing about the 720S, which I mean again is un-supercar-like. They've created that sort of that rear end, which is completely glass at the back because it's a sort of a monocage now, rather than just the top. But so they're hanging the doors off the top as well. But ultimately, I think it takes the sense of occasion away. You know, I mean, I love that. I think that's just beautiful, absolutely fabulous. It gets quite warm in the cabin. It's got air conditioning and stuff.
It's got air conditioning and everything. Yeah, it's got all the usual creature comforts, but it's never going to be super practical, obviously.
None of them are, though, are they? In terms of, obviously, you've got the engine mid-engine layout, but there's really, again, nothing behind here.
Well, it's the gearbox.
The gearbox.
The gearbox is bigger than the engine.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's a massive gearbox because they've had to design to take the power. You need a really boxing drivetrain. To take 1100 brake horsepower through aggressive gear changes. You can't have it can't be flimsy. It's got to be really big chunky parts and big gears, and so the gearbox is just basically fills the back.
Everything behind the engine is gearbox. Okay. And then is there any luggage room at all in the front?
Yeah, there's a front compartment.
Is it openable? Yeah. Because it looks a little bit, with the Ford GT. Yeah. They've got these sort of huge great slats, but then there's no room in there at all. I see. Oh, no, that's good. You get maybe 3 soft beds of.
You need triangle fitted luggage.
Well, it's absolutely fine. Absolutely fine for the stuff I wander around. Whether my wife would. You can feel it's very light. Sorry, it's very light. Actually, that's neat, isn't it? They've done that well. Whereas I think in the Ford GT you don't get that at all.
Don't you? I don't
know.
No,
because I think the 2 fans are open. Yeah. They've actually. I don't care. It's not the sort of car that you're going to go away for 2 weeks in, is it? But I think it's so you can take an overnight back. Yeah. It's a huge, great carbon ceramic discs. These are 345 to 30 20-inch rims. Huge amount of carbon fibre. The obviously the sills are all carbon fibre, and there's a lot of air channeling going on here, down here, presumably for the radiators. And then out the back you've got a sort of it's obviously a diffuser with a huge centerpiece. It's obviously channeling a lot of air. It's all in carbon fibre with the twin exhausts inside. The sort of hexagonal shaped exhaust surrounds. I mean, as Lee was saying, everything has a hexagonal theme to it. Super. Just really like it, and I like the way that I like the combination of the carbon fibre. It's just it's absolutely stunning. No, I'm much more taken than I was expecting to be.
If I'm honest, for me personally, I think it's the wrong colour for it. If it was in that
I
colour.
quite like the green.
I think you can get away with it actually. I wouldn't have it in the green, but I think a very dark purple.
I'd have it in the
or
green.
You'd have it in the green.
Yeah,
okay, but they see. Look at the difference in edge. You know, I mean, you wouldn't have the McLaren in that colour if you were choosing it, would you? Let's be truthful. Would you?
There are only two cars which I now know which suit green, and that's the Murcielago and this. I thought it was only the Murcielago which suited it.
There's a lot of design going on around the car, and loads of air intakes. And these days, of course, you've got a little bit like I compare with the Curlicue and the Aston. You've got these strakes at the side and allow the air to release from the wheel arch, so you don't get the air actually being trapped here, and that apparently can create lift. Now, it's been a real experience this having a drive of this, and it's a really well sorted car. It's unbelievably surprising, and the suspension system's incredibly compliant. So as a consequence of that, you know, you're not being banged around when you're driving it over. You know, British roads are not necessarily the best surface roads in the world, and you need a car that's sort of compliant enough if you're going to use it on roads, everyday roads. Now, and I think some of the German roads are a little bit smoother. It is a fantastic machine. Love the carbon fibre and the rear quarters, where you might expect to see a window, but they've put the carbon fibre. Everything is being thought through and is well designed, in my opinion. And it's a well put together car, and I think it will sit nicely in the as Lee said, the sort of the group that it's in, which is the Pagani Huayra type and the Koenigsegg. I think it's the Regera these days, yeah. The Agera, I think, was the previous model. I think the Regera is the latest version. Well, I want to thank Lee hugely for bringing it around. That is such an experience. Yeah, and I'm totally impressed. And I think I'd leave the gearbox exactly as it is. And if people can't get used to the gearbox, they don't deserve the car.
That's the point. That's nice to hear, because you know, I think ourselves in the factory just want to get some feedback on it, because it's a really engaging car, and that's really the whole point of it. The DNA of the car is to be really different from everything else.
I suppose the only thing with somebody like me is you might qualify it a little bit by saying I'm the sort of person that has the LT version of the McLaren 650 Super Series. I'm the sort of person that has the GT4 rather than the Cayman, and the Speciale rather than the 458. So I mean, I'm coming at it from, this is what I think this is what a hyper supercar should be. You know, but there will be some very wealthy people that, you know, want you to provide it in the most comfort setting, I suppose.
They can do a synchromesh gearbox as well, so there's those options, but this is the preferred kind of format for the car.
Sort of the option, yeah. Wow! Practically knocked me over, let alone the camera. What a machine! You know, it's one of the most aggressive cars I have ever seen. Absolutely stunning. Thanks, Lee. Well, that, ladies and gentlemen, was incredibly exciting. That is just totally phenomenal, and I was totally captivated. I do hope you heard some of the comments that we made in the car. It's quite vocal, the engine, but I'm very surprised and impressed with the suspension setup. I mean, it's just totally stunning. I mean, you go over bumps without being crashed around. There aren't many rattles. A few, maybe one or two rattles, which potentially would need to be sorted for a production version, but overall absolutely stunning. That is what I call a hypercar. That is what a hypercar needs to do. Alright guys, well, it's Ian from SS8000 Cars. I do hope you enjoyed that. For me, that was absolutely stunning. Checking off. See you again next time.